Boruto's next major enemy has been teased, and you won't believe how it was foreshadowed in the ending chapters of part 1. The evolution of Eida into a Shinju, something that seems to have happened in a possible timeline, could lead to some really massive development of not one but several characters. In chapter 76 of part 1, which was renowned as the most useless chapter due to all the female entanglement whose importance was unveiled later, Shikamaru said that if Eida ever becomes an enemy, it will be the job of Sarada and Sumire to take her down, cause they are immune to her spells. But the following events made it seem like this was never gonna happen, since Eida had wholeheartedly become an ally of Konoha. However, with the recent reveal of her turning into a tree in one of the possible futures, it seems like the events are going to take a breathtaking turn, and while the preparations are being made to defeat Mamushi, if things don't turn out as expected, then we might be witnessing a dystopian future where Jura will have a female companion who would by far be the second strongest Shinju, if not the first. From how Eida being devoured is a great possibility, to the final clash between her Shinju self and Sarada that will change everything. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe and let's begin. When Eida made her debut in the story, everyone felt her importance was almost negligible and she was just there for fan service. Cause how on earth would you expect someone with a love charm and ability to infatuate everyone around her to become the next big nuisance in the plot? Well, she shortly came to Konoha, which removed the potential villain tag from her head, and after the true nature of her ability was revealed, almost everyone lost their mind. Not just because omnipotence was a god level power, but actually because of what it had done. Exchanging the lives of the protagonist and his rival was likely the last thing that someone must have expected. But then came Two Blue Vortex, where it again felt like the importance of the cyborg siblings was pretty much reduced, at least for the first few chapters, until it got revealed that the Shinju counterpart of Bug, Aida's lifelong caretaker, was planning to devour her. Furthermore, her interactions with Shikamaru and Koji, where she provided live updates of some vital events, also made her a crucial part of the story. Keeping aside her contribution to the plot, what's more interesting about Eida is the fact that she was given all the leverage, which would make her almost invincible. In other words, it was impossible to kill her. The constant protection from Daemon, who's arguably the strongest on-screen character from part 1, and the love charm power which keeps her safe from almost the entire population. The stature of Eida was no less than a goddess, but just like how every jutsu has a weakness, even the wielder of an Otsutsuki god's power was vulnerable to something beyond anyone's comprehension. Mamushi's will from the early chapters, and the vision of Koji from the latest chapter, where Eida had turned into a tree in one of the futures, almost proved that her Shinjutsu couldn't save her from the Shinju. Now there must be an explanation for how the girl with the most broken power got hunted down when she was being protected by someone with the abilities and strength of an Otsutsuki god. Well, the division ability of Mamushi may have outnumbered Daemon by a huge degree, which led to him failing at being around Eida at all times. Maybe he would be dealing with a few Mamushi, and since all of them had their chakra erased, he couldn't count for the ones that had attacked Eida in the meantime. This explains how possibly Eida could have been hunted down, which may have led to Mamushi fusing with her body and becoming the tree. Now I will explain her role after Shinju evolution in a bit, but let's first get to a possibility which can't leave my mind. Daemon's reflection power is one of the most confusing abilities for some people reading the manga. Basically, it has been known to work in two ways. First off, when somebody goes for any sort of physical attack, he must be touching someone, or let's say another surface, to activate the reflection ability, kind of like how the program of the same name runs in the background to destroy malware in a computer system. But there is another angle which is known as the intent reflection. If anybody intends to cause harm on Daemon, like thinking of slashing his head or even eliminating him, it would lead to the intent reflecting on the attacker, causing him to die or get fatally injured. These two sequences were proof that Daemon doesn't need to hold anyone to unlock this side of his ability. But what if someone isn't intending to harm Daemon? Theoretically speaking, it shouldn't activate his reflection ability. So considering how Mamushi's ability causes him to dumb down, in other words, reduces his intelligence to a huge degree, there's a chance that it won't activate the ability, meaning we will finally have a loophole to defeat Daemon. Now here comes the the most interesting part. While it seems like with the current circumstances, they are trying to only keep this event of Eida getting hunted as an ultimately avoided future, there is still a good chance for this tragedy to take place and change the story in a drastic way. It would mostly impact three characters, which are Daemon, Sarada and Sumire, and I will explain their aftermath reactions one by one. But first let's look at something which has been lingering in my mind ever since the 5th chapter of Two Blue Vortex. You may have noticed how most of the Kara members whose roles are interconnected have been named after an element from the computer world. The roles that they play in the story are also based on the same programs, meaning we can predict what's going to happen by following the patterns. Code was named after computer code, basically referring to his role of inserting the code in multiple characters to activate them. Eida is based on Ida Lovelace, the first female computer programmer, while her omnipotence is referred to as programming language by Momoshiki. Moreover, Daemon is a protective program which detects the flaws and faults of the main system in the background. Connecting this to the analogy of Daemon being Ida's knight makes perfect sense. But here is how this gets more interesting. We also have bug, which refers to a bug or glitch in a computer program. So relating that to how Mamushi is going after Ida, I think we just cracked the code for what's going to happen in this story. Since Ida is a symbol of programming language, Mamushi being the one to devour her could lead to a glitch in the Matrix type of scenario, and this makes some good amount of sense for two main reasons. First off, if a new Shinju is born after this devouring incident, he will obviously be based off Ida and her abilities, so we can conclude that there would be very few people capable of taking her down. That's only because the charm ability would still be active, so every potential enemy of Ida, which is actually the whole shinobi world, would not be able to do anything against her Shinju avatar, which means it will become the responsibility of the people who are immune from her spell to take her down. The other glitch in the Matrix type of twist comes from the possibility of Ida's Shinju using omnipotence to create a dystopian reality that she desires. Even though it's a wild thought, but it would be really interesting if the plot will shift to the destruction of Konoha from the future, with Ida again being the reason for a major turnover. Think of it this way, if the Ten Tails gets to wish something that will definitely manifest into reality, wouldn't it be something like destroying the shinobi system, cause the elimination of all these people would improve the quality of their life, since the roots that power these beings are spread deep within earth. So maybe the chakra of the dead shinobi would lead to the perfect nutrient cycle, a mass release of natural energy that rewrites the balance of the world, allowing the Ten Tails to evolve into a higher Otsutsuki life form. This would mean that every fallen shinobi becomes the fertilizer for its evolution, exactly like how Kaguya used humans as offerings. And judging by the fact that Jura is curious about the god tree, this is definitely something that I can see coming true. So how does Kawaki get in between all this? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Just like how Jura offered Code the chakra fruit, he might have promised the same to Kawaki if he succeeds at eliminating the shinobi, most possibly by turning them all into trees. And with either the Shinju being an anchor in this glitch in the Matrix, maybe at least something out of what I just mentioned would make its way to the canon. Now it's time to explore all the hints which are setting up a battle between Ida, Sarada, Sumire and her own brother. First off, we had the flags of the moon residents that were shown in Naruto the last movie. They clearly portray the sun and moon motifs clashing with each other. When you compare them to the designs of Sarada's Mangenkyu and Ida's Senringan, they are exactly the same. Followed by that, Shikamaru had also revealed that if Ida ever becomes an enemy, it will be the duty of the girls to take her down. In a recent chapter, Ida says that she will not feel bad if Sarada and Sumire would be the one to kill her. And finally, when Daemon made his debut, she introduced him as the only person capable of killing her. So this whole foreshadowing of Ida's death may not be a reference to her actual death. Instead, it may be the defeat of her Shinju avatar, which had been teased in all these instances. Well, this could first contribute to the development of Sarada, as her other Mangenkyu ability must be more broken than the first one. Then we have Daemon, who hasn't shown the peak of his power yet, so going by the hints which indicate that they all will eliminate her, maybe the whole point of Ida becoming a loyal Konoha supporter was included to create space for the evil avatar of Ida getting destroyed by the people who can actually kill her. Well, this villain arc of Ida could be full of unexpected reveals. First, we would finally get to see a major chunk of Shibai's power that Daemon is going to unleash. Next up, Sarada and Sumire will unlock some broken techniques or strategies to deal with her, fulfilling the fateful destiny of them having to eliminate Eida when she turns evil. What I found interesting is that how they didn't make her turn bad by herself, keeping her real self a clean and soft-hearted person who even felt bad for what she did to Boruto. I still feel like her obsession with Kawaki has been installed as a program by Amado, but let's keep that for some other time. Now the final point which is left in this theory would perfectly explain how the writers are about to do justice with Aida's character after keeping her on the shelf for too long. Well, if you are still watching and not subscribed, please do it right now cause I really wanna hit 19k before next year. Aida's entire character arc is about never experiencing real love, cause her charm ability has corrupted every relationship in her life. If she becomes a Shinju version of herself, the only ones who could truly save her are the people who are either unaffected by her charm, those who genuinely love her, or those who choose her without manipulation. Now there could be a turnover of the false love into true love, and this is how I see it. Aida's charm ability is a curse disguised as a gift, but she might flip this fate very soon, as the ability makes everyone fall for her, but none of that is real. The biggest thing is that she already knows it, which kind of isolates her more than it empowers her. Well, this is a classic thematic setup for a love redeemed through authenticity payoff. The only way the author can logically end her arc is by either breaking her ability or by allowing her to meet people whose feelings are not controlled. So now that she has found such people in her life, the writers could play a better card to make her feel important and wanted out of authenticity, and that is by having the Shinju create a monstrous Eida clone that must be defeated. This would become the literal metaphor for breaking her curse. With Sarada and Sumire putting real efforts to obtain her soul thorn to rescue her, it would finally make her feel real love once she will be rescued from the divine tree. Now as for my afterthought on this Eida theory, I'm about to drop an analogy which would almost confirm the evolution of Eida into an evil entity. You must be well aware of the Dragon Ball influence on Boruto and how so many characters have a counterpart in both the series. In Dragon Ball Z, Android 18 and 17 were the initial androids of Dr. Gero who were later absorbed by Cell, leading to him awakening his perfect form. So looking at the story of Two Blue Vortex, the cyborg siblings are Eida and Daemon. The Shinju may be an avatar of the imperfect Cell, and once they prey on one of the siblings, which is Eida, they would evolve into a perfect form, which would be too hard to handle for anyone. So this means Jura is finally getting a female ally, and I'm excited to see where his relationship would go with her if Eida actually becomes a Shinju. Maybe he would finally understand love after taking her as a comrade, and this would gradually have a huge impact on the storyline. Let me know in the comments what you think about Eida and her future role. Make sure to subscribe if you still haven't, and I will see you next time.